Easy bake, fast as you can. Mix 'em up, pour 'em in the pan. Slide 'em in, let 'em bake now. Slide 'em in, slide 'em out, Easy Bake, wow! Only Kenner's Easy Bake Oven Set makes such delicious cakes, cookies, candies, brownies, pizza, pies, and biscuits. It bakes like magic with 2 ordinary light bulbs and has a special cooling chamber. Easy Bake by Kenner.
The Easy Bake Oven, an American staple of children's playtime for over 50 years, and with this long and extensive history of the toy, it has gained quite the notoriety throughout the years it has been on the market, such as in 2012, when it was reported that a 13-year-old girl petitioned against the Easy Bake Oven's quote-unquote sexist lean towards females being the primary user of the toy, which in turn gained a lot of negative media attention against the owner of the product, Hasbro, which led to the company to go down a more gender-neutral coloring and advertising campaign to rebrand the Easy Bake Oven. But just years before this controversy occurred involving the Easy Bake Oven and Hasbro, a much more imminent and dangerous recall would have occurred. And that brings us into the discussion of this video, as we discuss the Easy Bake Oven recall of '06. Being created in 1963 by the Kenner Company, an American toy company founded all the way back in 1946, and with their extensive history in making and releasing iconic toys to the public throughout the years, the Kenner Company has built quite the reputation with the US public at large. But unfortunately, come the year 2000, the Kenner Company was defunct and merged with massive toy company conglomerate Hasbro. However, as mentioned, in 1963, the Kenner Company had released the first of many models in the Easy Bake Oven brand, and with this fun, unique, and creative boxing of the Easy Bake Oven's contents and advertising, made it a very creative toy concept that for the time was a very unheard of and unique niche in the toy market for the time. Because, with the whole cooking concept of kids having an opportunity to do adult things, such as cooking, made it a very fun concept all throughout the 1960s to 70s as a whole, especially when you consider the fact that the time era in history around this time was a very crazy and all time in US history as a whole. But for the toy market at large was a renaissance era for the toy market brand, such as the toy phone and in lots of respects, the doll playhouse. And just in general, with a vast and extremely long list of toy products being released and sold all throughout the United States around this era, I think it's safe to say that the Easy Bake Oven fit right into this renaissance of the market. And come the second half of the 1970s through the 1980s, within lots of respects, the toys of the 1960s to early 1970s adapting to the times, so did the Easy Bake Oven, getting a more modern adaptation with the times as shown from the boxing to the overall shaping and color scheme of the toy as a whole. And come the 1970s to 1980s time era, the Easy Bake Oven was considered a culturally iconic toy all throughout the era, with its partnership with Betty Crocker around this point involving their baking powders, frostings, and accessories all throughout the years. You can really tell how the overall design of the Easy Bake Oven adapts and changes, with, for example, all of the 1970s versions Easy Bake Ovens having a very old-fashioned coloring scheme and design with the playset, especially comparing it to the 1970s kitchen for the times. You can really tell how just similar the overall scheming and design is similar to the time era the designers of the toy is trying to make it look. But overall, with the general success and cultural impact that the Easy Bake Oven was having for the times, a one-of-a-kind model Easy Bake Oven was presented to the winner of the 5 millionth Easy Bake Oven buyer in 1972. So it's clear that the Kenner Company was also attempting to do a very notable reach out to the public for the time to keep their product in the mainstream, with it even being reported that the Kenner Company was licensing the Easy Bake Oven to international markets, such as Japan, who represented a significant opportunity for Kenner to license the toy to the Nakajima Corporation, a toy company located in Japan, which sold its ovens versions of oven called the Margaret's Cooking Oven. So it's clear that the Easy Bake Oven brand, around this point, was slowly expanding their brand all throughout the world. And this was such a major event for the Easy Bake Oven brand that starting in 2017, a yearly event on the day of November 4th called National Easy Bake Oven Day would start. A national day to honor the Easy Bake Oven, to really commemorate the toy, So, I think it's obvious that the Easy Bake Oven brand has quite the loyal community around it, that for the time, other toys didn't quite have that cultural loyalty around it. And come the 1980s, the massive cultural success would transfer into the next decade. The Easy Bake Oven would have another revolutionary change in the look and coloring scheme, with the toy and especially with the catalog advertising overall, with just the evolutionary changing of how it advertises the Easy Bake Oven, accessories involving the toy. But regardless, by the year 1997, the Easy Bake Oven had a record sold over 16 million models of the toys sold, with 11 different types of models. But overall, come the 1990s, with another successful year where the Easy Bake Oven was considered another successful decade for the brand as a whole. But regardless, come 1993, when the Kenner Company became a division of Hasbro, Hasbro would continue the Easy Bake Oven's life cycle, and with it, a Snack Cycle set would be introduced with the brand as a way to further expand the Easy Bake Oven brand. And come the year 2000, coming into the new millennium, with a whopping 37 years of success that the Easy Bake Oven had, I think it's clear to say that the toy and Kenner brand had quite the long history overall by this point. But regardless, come the year 2000, it was reported that over 30 million units worth of sales involving the Easy Bake Oven had been sold. That, in lots of respects, could be credited to its complex advertising campaign that really focused towards the main female audience that, for the time, was a very untapped way of advertising to kids overall, which still, by this point, carried over 37 years later. And come the year 2003, it was reported that the Easy Bake Oven had won the Best Toy Parenting Magazine Toy of the Year award, just to put into context on how popular the toy had become by this point, with a notable positive about the Easy Bake Oven being that it can bake both desserts, sides, and main courses, with the 100-watt light bulb that the Easy Bake Oven had for cooking the pastries. But speaking of light bulbs of the Easy Bake Oven, it was reported that in 2006, a stove warmer element of the toy was introduced, and more specifically, a top warmer of the toy that was very controversial due to reported burns that the toy might cause due to either the child realizing the food is too hot or sticking their fingers into the Easy Bake Oven. And speaking of which, due to the Easy Bake Oven's smaller frame build compared to a normal oven, obviously, it made it notably easy if a child would stick their hands into the toy, they could get stuck. And even worse, if the toy was turned on to cook, it could burn the fingers and even hands of the child. And all throughout the 2006 time era, reports of this type of scenario was occurring. And overall, come February of 2007, it was reported to Hasbro that 29 children had gotten their hands and fingers caught in the door of the toy. And with it, as well being reported that there was 5 critical reports of burnings occurring in connection with the toy. And with it, Hasbro and the CPSC, or otherwise known as Consumer Product Safety Commission, got involved and ordered a product recall against the Easy Bake Oven around this time, as well as warning parents to not let or get the toy for children under the ages of 8 years old. And with this recall occurring for the Easy Bake Oven, public trust for Hasbro and the Easy Bake Oven brand was fading. And with it, around this point, reported from the CPSC that between February of 2007 and July of 2007, the CPSC reported that almost 250,000 kids were burnt in connection to the Easy Bake Oven, with what's worse is between 16 to 77 of those children having 2nd to 3rd degree burns, as bad as how these burning cases were occurring. And with it, come July 19th of 2007, the Hasbro company would reissue a voluntary recall involving the toy, due to cases still being reported heavily by this point. This was especially amplified by the fact when it was reported that a 5-year-old girl had to have her finger partially amputated as a part of getting her whole hand out of the oven. And with the recall number of the Easy Bake Oven being 65805 being revealed, it was soon traced back to where the stores were selling the Easy Bake Oven, such as Toys R Us, Walmart, Target, and a multitude of other retail stores adhering to the recall. It was reported from the CPSC that between 985,000 to 1 million units of the Easy Bake Oven have been recalled as a result of the overwhelming amount of reports that by this point was in the hundreds of. But with it, solutions for the CPSC was given out on how to handle the recall and what to do if your child is affected, such as taking the oven away from the child and looking through the instructions on how to return the toy. But in general, with parents educating their child on how to properly use and play with the oven when it came back to store shelves. Following July of 2007, cases of burnings and injury were down to a point that eventually the Hasbro company had received from this nightmare of a recall scandal and had made sure for following generations of the toy to put the right and proper safety features with it. So there you have it, the Easy Bake Oven recall of 07. It definitely is something on just how one change-up can turn into a real screw-up for such a major icon of the toy industry overall. But when you consider the fact that this was in 2007, it makes a little more sense after all. But with that, I've been Skipper Son, and I hope you all have a great day.